You know those days where everything goes wrong? When you burn your toast, stub your toe, and drop your phone, all in the space of 10 minutes? Well, no matter how tough it gets, just remember that it could always be worse. To prove that, today we're going to check out a very unlucky bunch, looking at sticky, slimy situations, horrendous hair dye jobs, and sussy spiders as we run through the people having a much worse day than you. Let's start by heading down under, checking out a family whose day was ruined by an extra creepy crawly.
Oh, look at the babies come out of it. Oh, look at them.
Back in 2015, Daniel Ford from Hallett Cove, Australia got a blood-curdling biology lesson when he attempted to kill a large wolf spider on his patio. After a wolf spider gives birth, its kids climb up her legs and sit on her back, staying there for a few weeks until they're big enough to fend for themselves. Unfortunately, Daniel and his broom cut this process short, sending the spider's hitchhiking kids scuttling across the floor in a visual fit for a horror movie. Daniel tried his best to sweep up the babies, but he didn't get them all, giving them enough time to crawl off, hide, and plot some revenge against the man who killed their mom. Well, if I was Daniel, I'd either leave that house or burn it down. I wasn't even there, and I still feel like I need to take a shower. Speaking of showers, the one I'm going to show in the clip up next isn't exactly conventional, but I'm sure it'd wash the spiders off of you. Unfortunately, though, it probably wasn't the most welcome time for a wash. Check it out. As if the 9-to-5 grind wasn't hard enough, these commuters in India had their days ruined after a burst pipe blasted the inside of their train with cold water. In India, train doors and windows are often left open, allowing commuters to hop on and off with ease. The system works well until a water pipe bursts alongside the track, soaking the passengers inside the train. I can't get enough of the fact that not a single window was spared from the blast, which just so happened to line up in the worst possible way, leaving no passenger dry. On the bright side, if any of those commuters skipped a shower that morning, they're good to go now. That is, unless that was a sewage pipe. Yeesh. Getting hosed down before work is pretty inconvenient, but at least they weren't on their way to their wedding, though they would have fit in perfectly at this wedding up next. Here comes the tide, nowhere to hide. Excuse me. This white wedding in the Philippines turned brown after a surprise monsoon caused heavy flooding in the province of Bulacan. Instead of postponing the ceremony, the happy couple decided to wade down the aisle and say their vows in knee-deep water. The ceremony was still pretty beautiful, and I hear there wasn't a dry eye or ankle in the whole church. Even so, if the newlyweds want better weather conditions for future special occasions, they might be better off moving to a different country entirely, which, on the bright side, might provide an exciting opportunity to learn a new language. And there's no better way to learn a new language than with Speakly, the sponsor of today's video. Speakly is designed to get you communicating at a conversational level up to 5 times faster than other language learning tools. This means that all it takes is 30 minutes of practice a day over 3 to 4 months to get you sharing fascinating factoids with your foreign-speaking buddies like a pro. One of the reasons Speakly is so successful is that it lets you decide how you want to learn. Whether it's through multiple choice questions, written exercises, or even music in your target language, Speakly caters to you, all via smartphone app or through your browser. Sign up for a free 7-day trial today using the link in the description below and get 60% off their annual subscription. With Speakly's brain-boosting power in hand to make our days way better, let's look at some more people having terrible days, shall we? In 2017, a resident of Jones County, Texas almost peed their pants when they discovered a rattlesnake slithering up through their toilet. Thankfully, they spotted it before they could sit down and receive an even nastier surprise. But like Samuel L. Jackson, the family had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday train. So they decided to call in the big guns, hiring the team at Big Country Snake Removal. The snake was too big to flush. We've all been there. So the snake removers were forced to drag it out of the toilet with a hook, allowing the homeowners to finally pee in peace. But how exactly did the snake get there? Well, most likely, since bathroom plumbing is usually regulated through ventilation pipes on the roof, snakes can occasionally slither their way through the ventilation system and into the porcelain throne, which is absolutely terrifying. Another family found themselves in a sticky situation of a more literal kind back in 2021. This 2-year-old was having the time of her life playing with some slime until she decided to put a giant blob of it on her head. Predictably, the slime got tangled up in the toddler's hair, forcing her parents to cancel all of their plans and spend hours meticulously picking it out. Unfortunately, elsewhere on the web, that toddler has a partner in slime.
Time for school!
This little girl decided to spread some slime all over a table before falling asleep in it. Why, you ask? Well, either because kids are stupid, or because it makes for a funny video. After all, you do have to ask yourself why they were filming. Though I will admit, when the girl tried to lift her head up and the slime was stuck to her face, that moment of realization and ensuing scream was pretty convincing.
Time for school!
And honestly, this is exactly the kind of prank siblings would pull on each other. Whether it was planned or not, that slime ain't coming out in a hurry. There's nothing more exciting than finally passing your driving test, heading to a dealership, and buying your very first car. In 2022, a TikToker called Summer Marie had a particularly memorable experience buying her first car for all the wrong reasons due to a sale announcement gong and an overenthusiastic car salesman.
Number one in your heart, because Summer's number one in our heart. Summer, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to kick that gong. Kick it and kick all the good luck into you. Now, one on the count of three, Summer. 1, 2, kick it!
Unfortunately, Summer was a bit overzealous with her kick, knocking the gong over and sending the metal frame crashing right into her brand new Nissan. Despite the salesman scrambling to the ground to try and save the day, he was too late. And Summer later explained in the comments that the car was left with a big black scratch and a dent that the dealership would have to fix. I'm sure the event put a slight downer on Summer's purchase, and although buying your first car is supposed to be a great day, even the nicest, sunniest days can turn bad. Another TikToker found this out firsthand thanks to a curious, colorful visitor. As this TikToker relaxed in the sun, a beaked thief snuck up and robbed her in broad daylight. In the bird's defense, she was listening to its favorite genre, squawk and roll. Anyone? Moving swiftly on, that girl isn't the only person with tech issues. One netizen captured a photo of an unlucky driver cruising down a highway, dragging their charging iPhone alongside the car. I hope they have phone insurance, because at this point having a low battery is the least of their concerns. But hey, at least their belongings weren't hanging out of a vehicle traveling 35,000 feet in the air. These student athletes from MTSU were traveling for a school tennis competition when they were served with a stroke of bad luck, discovering that one of their bags was hanging out of the propeller plane's improperly secured storage compartment. It was inches away from falling out of the plane, and if the wind and turbulence forced the bag to open, it could have sent tennis rackets and tennis balls falling from the sky. This could have been fatal for anyone standing down below, but on the plus side, it'd be an absolute dream for all the dogs. Thankfully, the luggage didn't actually fall out of the plane, and after the students explained the situation to the pilot, they looped back around to the runway and secured the bag before taking off again. The girls managed to spot the problem in time to save the bag and avoid a crisis. Others aren't so lucky. That steaming pile of spaghetti bolognese comes from a TikToker called Claire who managed to drop her dinner on her bedroom floor, spilling spaghetti on her laptop and her white designer handbag. Ultimately, it seems the MacBook proved spaghetti-proof. However, some spills take place in a much more public, embarrassing manner, like this sauce mishap captured on a kitchen CCTV and enjoyed over and over again by all the staff at the restaurant. As if spilling sauce on the floor wasn't unfortunate enough, this kitchen worker ended up in a sticky situation after getting his face painted by a commercial-sized bottle of barbecue sauce. As the worker opened the bottle, he accidentally squeezed the plastic, causing a thick stream of barbecue to leave him with tangy cheeks. While that restaurant worker was left with the frustrating task of cleaning up the mess and explaining the mishap to his manager, at least it was just one item being spilled. By contrast, in 2022, a TikToker called Henriette Hansrud had a very inconvenient experience at a convenience store after accidentally spilling everything she came into contact with. As Henrietta walked through the convenience store, she left a trail of destruction in her wake, accidentally knocking over an entire display of cookies before the camera started rolling, then picking up a pack of shredded cheese which was unfortunately busted, and accidentally pouring the contents straight onto the floor. Henrietta captioned the TikTok, "Tell me it's Monday without telling me it's Monday." And although the double spillage probably put a downer on Henrietta's day, I'm sure the worker who had to clean up the mess was even more frustrated. Henrietta's clumsiness created a lot of mess, but personally I'm more upset at all that wasted food. When you're hungry, nothing can ruin your day like dropping your dinner or burning your breakfast. And in 2022, a TikToker called Mallory Bryce discovered this firsthand after completely ruining the sandwich she'd been so looking forward to. As Mallory tried to follow a sandwich recipe she'd seen on TikTok, she swapped out a pinch of salt for a fistful as she poured an entire salt shaker onto the tomatoes, completely ruining the recipe. Now that's worth being salty about. Mallory's mishap definitely ruined her day, and her lunch. But Butterfingers can have much costlier consequences, like say, spilling an entire tub of expensive hair cream onto the floor.
Smells really good.
Back in 2022, a TikToker called Layla tried to channel her inner beauty influencer by showing off a new hair product to her followers. Unfortunately, beauty products still obey the laws of gravity, and as Layla showed the tub's contents to the camera, she seemed to forget it was a liquid, and poured it straight onto the floor. On the bright side, the TikTok's 10.9 million views gave her some viral fame, and I bet her carpet smells great now. Sticking on theme of TikTok beauty videos, this next one required a cleanup job that was a little more challenging. This TikToker called Jenny had a nasty allergic reaction while attempting a viral beauty trend back in 2020. At the time, the biggest TikTok beauty trend was giving yourself temporary freckles with the temporary skin dye henna, using the dye to place hundreds of little spots on your face. Jenny decided to take part in the trend, but unfortunately, she had an allergic reaction to the henna, leaving her face covered in giant red spots despite her wiping it off before it could set. Jenny isn't the only TikToker left to cry over dye. This TikToker attempted a DIY hair dye job, but unfortunately, she forgot to wear plastic gloves during the process, accidentally staining her entire hand purple. That isn't going anywhere anytime soon, so she may as well use the purple to embrace her inner Thanos. Someone get this girl an Infinity Gauntlet. This next unlucky dyer also found herself in a hairy situation, winding up branded after using a plastic Walmart bag to bleach her hair. After you bleach your hair at home, you need to wrap your head in plastic for around 45 minutes to make sure the coloration is evenly distributed. When this girl removed her makeshift plastic wrap, however, she discovered that the ink from the Walmart bag had transferred into her hair as the chemicals broke down the bag's pigment, leaving her branded with the company's logo. I wonder if she can charge a fee for her head becoming advertising space. As bad as those dye disasters were, at least the guilty parties kept the ink confined to their hair and hands, instead of accidentally staining their entire face. Back in 2022, a TikToker called Kyson Key accidentally gave himself a full-face makeover after dressing up as an Oompa Loompa for Halloween and completely covering himself in orange paint that was a little more semi-permanent than intended. Get ready for the reveal.
It's not coming off. It's not coming off.
Kyson looks like he's just escaped from the chocolate factory, and judging from the way the paint is sticking to his friend's hands, he might have been stuck like that for a few days. Hey, maybe he can play it off as fake tan. Let's move on now from color disasters to a hair-raising encounter captured by a family in Australia. Check it out. Dear God, when this family noticed the balloon in their kitchen mysteriously moving, I doubt anything could have prepared them for what was causing it. Their visitor was a giant huntsman spider clambering around the balloon. The sight of an airborne arachnid is absolutely terrifying, but luckily huntsmen aren't particularly aggressive, though their bite can be painful in the rare cases they do attack. But hey, maybe this spider just wanted to congratulate the couple on their new baby. At least that spider didn't bring his family along to say hello. They might have been waiting for him in the car outside, or perhaps in the van shown in this next clip.
Oh God, there it is, there it goes, there it goes. It's getting in the van, it's getting in the van. No, it's in the van, it's in the van, it's in the van.
Back in March 2022, a couple traveling around Australia found a family of huntsman spiders stowing away in their van. Huntsman spiders are huge, but they're also incredibly flexible, and these critters were able to squeeze inside the van even though its doors were closed. Unfortunately, the human couple were living inside the van, so cutting their losses and burning the vehicle down wasn't an option. Instead, they had to painstakingly remove all of the spiders before going to sleep, hoping that the critters wouldn't squeeze through the gaps in the door and crawl back inside. Personally, I wouldn't be able to sleep in that van for a while, but I'd rather move in there for life than spend 10 minutes in this next vehicle. Back in February 2022, this TikToker visited the Zhongnan Baisao Garden, a zoo and amusement park in China. As he went for a stroll around the zoo, he came across a horrifying sight, an escaped anaconda wrapping its gigantic body around a van. As he got closer, he noticed that the snake wasn't moving, and it soon became apparent that the monster was actually an inflatable, a piece of artwork created to promote the zoo. The snake was a fake, allowing the TikToker to calm his nerves and continue his walk. Thankfully, he didn't scream and run away from the inflatable. That would have been embarrassing. But he wouldn't have been the first to accidentally shame himself online. In 2017, Chris Mendiola from Texas adopted a rescue dog called Bear. After taking his new best friend home, he found this small symbol tattooed onto the pup's body, seemingly placed there by his previous owner. Understandably, Chris was furious that someone would tattoo a dog. So in solidarity, he decided to take himself down to a tattoo parlor and get a matching tattoo on his arm to form a permanent bond with his pooch. When Chris posted a picture of his new tattoo on social media, he was expecting to receive support and praise for his selfless act. Unfortunately, he was instead inundated with messages explaining something rather embarrassing indeed. Bear's tattoo was actually applied by a vet, not an abusive owner, and the symbol was simply an indication that the pit bull had been neutered. In some states, it's common practice to tattoo dogs after neutering them, inking them with symbols like this. So Chris had unknowingly tattooed a symbol to his forearm that resulted in him permanently branding himself as A, a dog, and B, infertile. Great job, buddy. To be fair to Chris Mendiola, his heart was clearly in the right place, and other pet owners aren't nearly as thoughtful. Throughout history, humans have enjoyed using their dogs as scapegoats, blaming them for errant farts in the living room and unsubmitted homework. Kids have been telling their teachers that the dog ate their homework for years, but in 2017, the tables turned. As one teacher woke up to start the day, they discovered that their husky had literally eaten most of their class's homework before they'd had a chance to grade it. The teacher was embarrassed, but something tells me that the kids weren't nearly as upset. Especially the ones who hadn't handed theirs in that had the dog ate my homework excuse locked, loaded, and ready to go. Well, that wraps up our look at people having terrible days. What's the worst day you've ever had? And how does it compare to the unlucky bunch I covered in this video? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.